Nathan Zeller's hands were raw from scraping ice off windshields all day, but he still had 3 more hours before his shift ended at the truck stop. The blizzard had started 2 hours ago, transforming the Montana highway into a white nightmare, and business had picked up considerably as travelers sought shelter from the storm. He worked quickly, efficiently, moving from pump to pump with practiced ease despite the bitter cold that cut through his worn jacket. "Dad." The small voice cut through the howling wind, and Nathan turned to see his 7-year-old son Tommy waving at him from inside the convenience store, his face pressed against the glass. Nathan waved back, managing a tired smile. Tommy had been doing homework at one of the tables inside, surrounded by candy displays and the smell of stale coffee. Not exactly an ideal after-school situation, but Nathan's mother had come down with the flu, and he couldn't afford to miss work. Not when rent was due in 5 days, and he was still short $200. He moved to the next vehicle, a sedan with Oregon plates, and began clearing the accumulated snow. The driver, an elderly man with kind eyes, handed him a $5 tip through the cracked window. "Get yourself something hot to drink, son. You look half frozen." "Thank you, sir. Drive safe out there." Nathan pocketed the tip and glanced at his watch. 6:15. The temperature was dropping fast and visibility was getting worse. Highway Patrol had just issued a travel advisory recommending people stay off the roads unless absolutely necessary. He headed back inside to warm up for a few minutes, stamping snow off his boots at the entrance. "How is it out there?" his manager, Pete, asked from behind the register. "Getting bad, real bad. I would not be surprised if they close the highway soon." Tommy looked up from his math worksheet, concern creasing his young face. "Are we going to be able to get home?" "We will be fine, buddy. We have got the truck, and I know these roads like the back of my hand." Nathan ruffled his son's dark hair, so similar to his own. "How is the homework coming?" "Almost done. Just 2 more problems." Nathan poured himself a cup of coffee from the complimentary pot, wrapping his cold fingers around the warm cup. Through the window, he could see the snow coming down in thick sheets now, the parking lot lights creating halos of white in the darkness. A few trucks were parked in the lot, their drivers likely settling in to wait out the storm. Smart move. The bell above the door chimed, and a blast of frigid air announced a new arrival. Nathan turned to see a woman stumble inside, her designer coat covered in snow, her dark hair wild around her face. She wore heels, actual heels in a Montana blizzard, and she looked completely disoriented. "Oh, thank God," she gasped, nearly falling as she tried to steady herself. "My car, it just died, out on the highway. I tried to walk, but I could not see anything, and then I saw your lights." Nathan immediately set down his coffee and approached her. "How far out were you?" "I do not know." "Maybe half a mile, a mile? Everything looks the same in this." Her teeth were chattering, and he noticed her lips had a bluish tint. "Pete, get her some blankets from the back," Nathan ordered, already guiding the woman to a chair near the small heater they kept by the counter. "Tommy, grab one of those hot chocolates from the machine, okay?" The woman collapsed into the chair, shaking violently. Now that she was in the light, Nathan could see she was probably in her early 30s, with striking features and an air of sophistication that seemed completely out of place in the dingy truck stop. Her coat, though soaked, was clearly expensive, as was the business suit underneath. "What were you thinking, walking in this?" Nathan knelt beside her, helping her out of the wet coat. "You could have died out there." "My phone died. I did not have a choice. I could not just sit in the car and freeze." Her voice was steadier now, but she was still shaking. "I am Fiona." "Fiona Zimmerman." "Nathan Zeller. This is my son, Tommy." He accepted the hot chocolate from Tommy and pressed it into Fiona's hands. "Drink this. Slowly." Pete returned with a stack of scratchy wool blankets, and they wrapped them around Fiona's shoulders. She took a sip of the hot chocolate and closed her eyes, some color starting to return to her face. "Where were you headed?" Nathan asked. "Billings. I had a meeting." Well, I was supposed to have a meeting 2 days ago, but I had to extend my trip to Helena, and then I thought I could make it back before the storm hit, but obviously I miscalculated. She laughed, but it sounded slightly hysterical. Severely miscalculated. Nathan exchanged a glance with Pete. Billings was 3 hours away in good weather. In this storm, it might as well be on another planet. You are not getting to Billings tonight, Pete said bluntly. Highway Patrol is probably closing the roads any minute now. Fiona's face fell. But I have to get back. I have a conference call at 8 tomorrow morning. Madam, with all due respect, you are lucky to be alive right now. That conference call is going to have to wait. Nathan stood, his knees cracking slightly. At 32, he felt much older some days, the stress of single parenthood and financial struggle aging him beyond his years. Tommy had been watching Fiona with wide, curious eyes. "You look like a princess," he said suddenly, with the unfiltered honesty of a 7-year-old. Fiona managed a genuine smile. "Thank you, sweetheart, though I imagine I look more like a drowned rat right now." "No, you are really pretty," Tommy insisted, and Nathan felt his cheeks warm with embarrassment. "Tommy, let the lady warm up, okay? Go finish your homework." Over the next hour, the situation outside deteriorated further. The Highway Patrol did indeed close the roads, and more stranded travelers trickled into the truck stop. Nathan went back outside twice to help guide people in, his shift technically over but his conscience not allowing him to leave. Pete brought out cots and extra blankets, transforming the small store into an impromptu shelter. Fiona had recovered from her ordeal, though she still huddled under the blankets. Nathan noticed her watching him as he moved through the store, helping people get settled, checking on Tommy, coordinating with Pete. When he finally sat down at the table with his son, reviewing the now completed homework, she approached. "Thank you," she said simply. "You probably saved my life." Nathan shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. Anyone would have done the same. No, they would not have. She settled into the chair across from him, her movements graceful despite the circumstances. "Can I ask you something? How old are you?" The question caught him off guard. 32. "Why, you just seem very young to have a 7-year-old. I was 25 when Tommy was born. His mother and we were not married. She left when he was 6 months old, decided motherhood was not for her." Nathan kept his voice neutral, aware that Tommy was listening even though he was pretending to focus on his worksheet. "It has just been the two of us since then." Fiona's expression softened. "That must be incredibly hard. We manage." He smiled at Tommy. "We are a good team, right, bud?" "The best team," Tommy confirmed, grinning up at his father with obvious adoration. "And you work here?" Fiona gestured around the truck stop. "Here and at a construction site during the day. I do evening shifts here 4 days a week." Nathan saw no reason to hide his situation. She would be gone as soon as the storm cleared anyway. Not glamorous, but it pays the bills. Mostly. Fiona looked like she wanted to say something else, but Pete called Nathan over to help with a situation involving one of the truckers, and the moment passed. The night wore on. The truck stop, never designed to accommodate so many people, was crowded and uncomfortable. Tommy eventually fell asleep on one of the cots, bundled in Nathan's jacket. Nathan stayed awake, partially to help Pete manage the unexpected crowd, partially because he could never really relax in unfamiliar situations. Too many years of being the only person he and Tommy could rely on. Around midnight, when things had finally settled down and most people were sleeping or at least resting quietly, Nathan found himself standing by the window, watching the snow continue its relentless assault. Fiona joined him, 2 fresh cups of coffee in her hands. "Peace offering," she said, handing him one. "I noticed you have not sat down in about 6 hours. Comes with the territory." He accepted the coffee gratefully. "Are you doing okay? No frostbite or anything?" "I am fine, thanks to you." She stood beside him, and he was acutely aware of her presence. Even disheveled and wearing borrowed sweatpants that Pete had scrounged up from somewhere, she was beautiful. "Can I ask you something else?" Seems to be your night for questions. She smiled. Why did you help me? I mean, beyond the basic human decency. You went out of your way. You are still going out of your way, staying up to make sure everyone is okay when your shift ended hours ago. Nathan considered the question. A few years ago, Tommy and I were in a tight spot, worse than usual. I had lost my main job, the truck broke down, and we were about to be evicted. A stranger helped us. A guy I had done some odd jobs for, he paid me for work I had not done yet, said he trusted I would make it good later. He saved us. Nathan took a sip of coffee, the memory still vivid. I guess I figure I should pay that forward when I can. Did you make it good later? Every penny. Took me 8 months, but I paid him back with interest. Fiona was quiet for a long moment. You are a good man, Nathan Zeller. I am just a man trying to do right by his kid. That is exactly what makes you good. Something in her voice made him turn to look at her. Their eyes met, and for a heartbeat, the chaotic truck stop faded away. There was something in her gaze, a depth and intelligence and something else he could not quite name. It made his breath catch. Then Tommy called out in his sleep, a small whimper, and Nathan immediately moved to his son's side, kneeling beside the cot to smooth his hair and whisper reassurance. Whatever moment had existed between him and Fiona dissolved like snow on warm ground. The storm continued through the next day. The highway remained closed, and the truck stop became even more crowded as local residents without power made their way to the building. Nathan called his mother to check on her, relieved to hear she was feeling better and had power and supplies. He explained the situation, and she understood immediately, her main concern being for Tommy. Nathan did not leave. Pete had officially asked him to stay and help manage things, offering to pay him overtime, and Nathan could not refuse. More than that, though, he felt responsible for these people, particularly Fiona. He kept finding his attention drawn to her throughout the day, watching as she helped distribute food, entertained restless children with stories about her travels, and generally made herself useful despite clearly being outside her comfort zone. She is nice, Tommy observed, watching Fiona help an elderly woman get comfortable. The princess lady. Her name is Fiona, and yes, she is nice. Do you think she is pretty? Nathan felt his face heat up again. Tommy, that is not really an appropriate question, but do you? There was no point in lying to his perceptive son. Yes, I think she is pretty. Now go wash your hands before lunch. That afternoon, during a brief lull in the chaos, Nathan and Fiona ended up sitting together again. Tommy was playing cards with one of the truckers, his delighted laughter ringing through the store. You are really good with him, Fiona said. Tommy, I mean, you can tell he feels secure, loved. That is not always the case with kids. He is my whole world, everything I do is for him. Nathan watched his son, feeling the familiar swell of fierce love and protectiveness. I know I cannot give him everything. We live in a small apartment. He does not have the latest toys or games. Sometimes dinner is just grilled cheese and tomato soup. But I make sure he knows he is loved, that he matters, that he can count on me. That is everything, Fiona said softly. That is what every child needs, and so many do not get it. You are giving him the most important things. Nathan looked at her curiously. You sound like you know from experience. She was quiet for a moment, her expression becoming distant. My parents were wealthy, very wealthy. I grew up in a mansion, went to the best schools, wore designer clothes. And I would have traded it all for a parent who was actually present, who cared more about me than their business deals and social standing. She shook her head. Sorry, that is probably more than you wanted to know. No, I appreciate you sharing. Nathan hesitated, then asked, What do you do? For work, I mean. You mentioned a meeting in Billings. I am in corporate consulting, Fiona said, which Nathan suspected was a simplified version of the truth. I help companies optimize their operations, maximize efficiency, that sort of thing. Sounds impressive. It is mostly spreadsheets and presentations. She smiled, but it did not quite reach her eyes. Not nearly as important as what you do. What I do, I pump gas and haul lumber. You raise a child, you help people, you show up every day and do what needs to be done. That matters more than any corporate presentation. Nathan did not know what to say to that. He was saved from having to respond when Tommy ran over, excited about winning his card game. That evening, after another makeshift dinner cobbled together from the truck stop's limited supplies, Nathan volunteered to help Pete with inventory in the back. When he emerged an hour later, he found Fiona sitting with Tommy, reading him a story from a battered paperback someone had left behind. Tommy was leaning against her, his eyes drooping, completely at ease. Nathan's heart did something complicated in his chest. Tommy was usually shy around strangers, particularly women. The few times Nathan had attempted to date over the years, Tommy had been reserved, cautious, clearly worried about losing his father's attention. But with Fiona, he was relaxed, happy even. Fiona looked up and saw Nathan watching. She smiled, and it transformed her face, making her seem younger, less guarded. Nathan found himself smiling back, unable to help it. "Story time?" he asked, approaching them. "Fiona does all the voices," Tommy said sleepily. "She made the dragon sound really scary." "I am a woman of many talents," Fiona said lightly, but there was a warmth in her eyes when she looked at Tommy that seemed genuine. Nathan sat down beside them, and Fiona continued reading. Her voice was soothing, animated when the story called for it, gentle during the quiet parts. Tommy fell asleep before she finished, his small body warm against Nathan's side. Nathan carefully lifted him and carried him to the cot, tucking him in with practiced efficiency. When he returned, Fiona was still sitting there, the book closed in her lap. "He is a special kid." "I know." "I am lucky. He is the lucky one, having you as a father." They talked late into the night, keeping their voices low so as not to disturb the sleeping travelers. Fiona told him about growing up in Connecticut, about boarding schools and lonely holidays, about deciding to forge her own path despite her family's expectations. Nathan shared stories about Tommy, about the challenges of single parenthood, about his dreams of eventually going back to school and getting a degree in engineering. "Why have you not?" Fiona asked. "Gone back to school, I mean." "Time, money, the usual obstacles," Nathan shrugged. "Maybe someday." "When Tommy is older, when things are more stable, you should. You are clearly intelligent, hardworking. You could do anything you set your mind to." "That is a nice thought, but reality is a bit more complicated." "Reality is what you make it," Fiona said firmly. "I believe that." "I have seen too many people trap themselves with supposed limitations that are really just fears." Nathan wanted to argue, to point out that she clearly came from a world of privilege where obstacles were more easily overcome, but there was something in her expression that stopped him. An intensity, a passion that suggested she truly believed what she was saying. "Maybe," he said finally. "Maybe you are right." The storm finally broke on the third morning. The highway patrol reopened the roads around 10 a.m. and the mass exodus began. Pete thanked Nathan profusely, pressing an envelope of cash into his hands that felt thicker than it should have been. Nathan wanted to argue, but Pete waved him off. "You earned every penny. Could not have managed without you." Fiona arranged for a tow truck to retrieve her car and a rental to continue her journey to Billings. Nathan tried not to think about the fact that she would be leaving, that he would likely never see her again. It was foolish to feel any kind of attachment after just a few days, especially to someone so clearly from a different world. But as she gathered her things and prepared to leave, he could not deny the sinking feeling in his stomach. "Well," Fiona said, standing in front of him and Tommy, her coat back on, looking once again like the sophisticated businesswoman who had stumbled through the door. "Thank you again. For everything." "Safe travels," Nathan said, trying to keep his voice neutral. Fiona knelt down to Tommy's level. "It was wonderful meeting you, Tommy. Keep being amazing, okay?" "Okay." Tommy suddenly hugged her, fierce and tight. "I will miss you." "I will miss you too, sweetheart." Fiona hugged him back, and when she stood, Nathan thought he saw tears in her eyes. She turned to Nathan, and for a moment, neither of them spoke. Then she pulled a business card from her purse and pressed it into his hand. "If you ever need anything, anything at all, please call me." Nathan looked down at the card. It read, Fiona Zimmerman, CEO, Zimmerman Enterprises, CEO. She was a CEO. He felt suddenly foolish, embarrassed by his complaints about money and struggle to someone who ran an entire company. "You are a CEO," he said, unable to keep the surprise from his voice. Fiona's cheeks colored slightly. "I simplified my job description a bit. I did not want to make things weird. Your company, is it related to your family? I built it myself, actually, against their wishes. But yes, I eventually merged it with the family business and took over operations." She touched his arm lightly. "Nathan, that card is not some polite gesture. I mean it. If you need anything, or if you just want to talk, please." Then she was gone, climbing into a rental SUV and driving away, leaving Nathan standing in the parking lot with her card in his hand and Tommy tugging on his sleeve. "Dad, why did you not ask her to stay?" "Because she has her own life, Bud, an important life. She does not belong here. But you liked her, I could tell." Nathan looked down at his son's earnest face. "Yeah, I liked her, but sometimes that is not enough." They drove home in the old truck, the roads slushy but passable. Their apartment felt smaller than usual, more shabby. Nathan tucked the business card into his wallet, telling himself he would throw it away later, knowing he would not. Life returned to normal. Nathan worked his shifts, picked Tommy up from school, helped with homework, made dinner, repeated the cycle. But something had changed. He found himself thinking about Fiona at odd moments, remembering the way she laughed, the gentleness in her eyes when she looked at Tommy, the intensity of their late-night conversations. 2 weeks after the storm, Nathan was at the construction site when his phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello." "Nathan, it is Fiona." His heart jumped. "Fiona, hi, how are you?" "I am good. Listen, I know this might seem strange, but I have been thinking. My company is expanding operations, and we are opening a new logistics center in Missoula. That is not too far from you, right?" "About an hour and a half. I am putting together a management team, and I need someone to oversee the facility construction and initial operations. It would be a full-time position with benefits, good salary, and opportunities for advancement. I immediately thought of you." Nathan felt like he had been punched. "Fiona, I appreciate it, but I do not have that kind of experience. I am a laborer, not a manager. You managed an entire truck stop full of stranded people for 3 days with efficiency and compassion. You coordinate crews at your construction job, do you not?" "Well, yes, but that is different than running a whole facility." "Nathan, I am a very good judge of people. It is why I am successful. You are smart, hardworking, reliable, and you understand how to lead. That is what I need. The rest can be learned." She paused. "The salary is $85,000 a year to start." Nathan nearly dropped the phone. $85,000. He currently made about $38,000 between both his jobs. That kind of money would change everything for him and Tommy. "I do not know what to say." "Say you will think about it. Please, I am sending you the details via email. Look it over, talk to Tommy if you want, and call me back. Okay?" "Okay, yeah, I will think about it." After she hung up, Nathan stood there for a long moment, his mind racing. Was this charity? A handout because she felt sorry for him? The thought made his pride bristle. But then he remembered her words about being a good judge of people and the genuine respect he had heard in her voice. That evening, he discussed it with Tommy while they ate spaghetti at their small kitchen table. "Would we have to move?" Tommy asked. "Maybe eventually. It would be a long commute from here, but they are offering relocation assistance according to the email." Nathan had read the job description 3 times, and it was legitimate. Challenging, but within his capabilities if he worked hard. "Would we see Fiona?" Nathan smiled. "I do not know, Bud. She is based in Billings. She would probably just be my boss from a distance." "You should do it," Tommy said decisively. "It sounds like a good job, and you would be happy." "What makes you think I would be happy?" "Because you like her, and she likes you, I could tell. Out of the mouths of babes, Nathan ruffled Tommy's hair affectionately. "It is not that simple, but you are right that it is a good opportunity. I think I am going to say yes." He called Fiona that night after Tommy went to bed. "I want to accept," he said without preamble, "but I need to know this is not charity. That you are offering this because you genuinely think I can do the job, not because you feel sorry for me." "Nathan, I do not run a charity. I run a business, and I hire people who can help that business succeed. I offered you this position because I believe you will excel at it. Yes, I like you and Tommy, and yes, I want to help you because of that. But I would never put a multi-million-dollar operation in the hands of someone I did not trust to run it properly. That would be terrible business." Her directness was reassuring. "Okay then, I accept. When do I start?" They worked out the details over the next several weeks. Nathan gave notice at both his jobs, received a welcome packet from Zimmerman Enterprises that made his head spin with information, and began the process of looking for a new place to live closer to Missoula. Fiona was professional in all their interactions, but warm too, always asking about Tommy, occasionally sharing details about her own life. He learned that she was 34, had never been married, lived for her work. Her company specialized in supply chain optimization and logistics, with a focus on sustainable practices. She had built it from nothing 10 years ago, working 100-hour weeks, sacrificing everything for success. The merger with her family's company 3 years ago had been acrimonious but ultimately profitable for everyone involved. "Do you ever regret it?" Nathan asked during one of their phone conversations. "Sacrificing so much for work?" "Sometimes," Fiona admitted. "I look at people like you with Tommy, and I wonder what it would have been like to have that kind of connection. But I made my choices. I am good at what I do. You could still have both. You are only 34. Maybe, we will see." Nathan started his new job in early May, 2 months after the storm. The facility was still under construction, but the bones were there, and he was responsible for overseeing the final stages while simultaneously hiring staff and setting up operational procedures. It was overwhelming at first, but Fiona had paired him with a consultant named Marcus, who helped him navigate the corporate side of things. Tommy adjusted well to their new apartment in Missoula, a spacious 2-bedroom in a good school district that Nathan could actually afford now. He made friends quickly at his new school, joined a soccer team, seemed happier than Nathan had seen him in years. The financial pressure that had been Nathan's constant companion for 7 years eased, not gone entirely, but manageable. Breathing room, Fiona came to inspect the facility in June. Nathan knew she was coming, had prepared for a week, but when he saw her step out of her car in the parking lot, his heart still stuttered. She wore a sharp gray suit, her hair pulled back, every inch the powerful executive. But when she saw him, her face lit up with a genuine smile that transformed her entire demeanor. "Nathan, it is so good to see you. You too, welcome to Missoula." He shook her hand professionally, trying to ignore the spark he felt at the contact. The tour went well. Fiona asked detailed questions, made notes on her tablet, nodded approvingly at the progress. But there was a tension between them, an awareness that had nothing to do with business. Nathan caught her watching him several times, and when their eyes met, something electric passed between them. After the tour, they went to lunch at a local restaurant. Fiona had insisted it was her treat, a thank you for his hard work. They sat across from each other in a booth, and for a few moments, neither spoke. "How is Tommy?" Fiona asked finally. "He is great. Really happy here. Better school, more opportunities, and I actually have time to spend with him now. It has been life-changing." Nathan met her eyes. "Thank you for taking a chance on me. You have exceeded every expectation I had, which were already high. The facility is ahead of schedule and under budget. The staff you have hired are top-notch. You should be proud." "I am just trying not to screw up," Nathan said honestly. Fiona laughed. "That is the secret of success. We are all just trying not to screw up." They talked for 2 hours, long after they had finished eating. The conversation flowed easily, naturally, jumping from topic to topic. Nathan told her about Tommy's soccer games, about his plans for the facility's grand opening. Fiona shared stories about her travels, about the challenges of managing a company while dealing with her family's expectations and interference. "Do you ever get lonely?" Nathan asked, surprising himself with the boldness of the question. Fiona was quiet for a moment. "Yes, often. Success is amazing, but it is a cold companion at the end of the day." She looked at him intently. "Do you? Lonely, sometimes, but I have Tommy and that helps. Still, there are moments when I wish there was someone, another adult to share things with, to lean on." He hesitated. "I have not dated much since Tommy was born. It always felt complicated, and I did not want to bring someone into his life unless I was sure they would stick around." "That is very mature of you. Tommy is lucky." "I am the lucky one." They sat there, the air between them charged with unspoken things. Nathan wanted to reach across the table and take her hand, wanted to ask her out properly, wanted to explore whatever this connection was. But she was his boss, and that complicated everything. Besides, what could someone like her want with someone like him beyond friendship? As if reading his thoughts, Fiona said softly, "This is complicated, is it not?" "What is?" "This, us, whatever this is." Nathan's pulse quickened. "Yeah, it is. I do not typically pursue relationships with employees. It is unprofessional and opens up all sorts of HR issues." "That makes sense. But I have not been able to stop thinking about you since the storm, about you and Tommy, about the way you made me feel." She laughed slightly. "I run a company. I negotiate million-dollar deals without blinking, but right now I feel like a nervous teenager." Nathan's mouth went dry. "Fiona, I feel the same way, but there is a lot at stake here. My job, your reputation, and more than that, there is Tommy to consider. I cannot bring someone into his life casually." "I would never expect casual. Nathan, I have spent 10 years focused solely on my career. I have had relationships, but nothing serious, nothing that mattered. And then I met you, and for the first time in a decade, I wanted something more. Something real." She reached across the table and put her hand over his. "But you are right. There is a lot to consider. Tommy especially, so maybe we take this slow, see each other when I am in town, get to know each other better, let Tommy get comfortable with the idea. No pressure, no expectations, just see what happens." Nathan turned his hand over and laced his fingers through hers. "I would like that. I would like that a lot." They dated quietly over the summer and into the fall. Fiona came to Missoula every 2 weeks, sometimes for business, sometimes just to see them. She and Nathan went to dinner, to movies, on hikes through the mountains. They talked for hours on the phone when she was in Billings. And gradually, carefully, she became part of Tommy's life too. She came to his soccer games, cheering from the sidelines with genuine enthusiasm. She helped him with his science project, her corporate problem-solving skills applied to building a volcano. She brought him books and listened with infinite patience to his long, rambling stories about school and friends and whatever had captured his interest that week. Tommy adored her. Nathan could see it in the way his son's face lit up when Fiona arrived, in the way he sought her approval, in the casual affection that developed between them. It terrified him, because if this did not work out, Tommy would be hurt too. But it also felt right in a way nothing else had in years. One evening in October, after Tommy had gone to bed, Nathan and Fiona sat on the couch in his living room, her head resting on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. "I love him," Fiona said quietly. "Tommy, I hope that is okay to say." Nathan's chest tightened. "It is more than okay." "He loves you too. He told me the other day that he hoped you would be around forever." "What did you tell him?" "I told him I hoped so too." Nathan shifted so he could see her face. "Fiona, I need you to know something. I am not good at casual. Maybe it is because I have Tommy, or maybe it is just who I am, but I do not do things halfway. So if we are going to do this, really do this, I am all in. But if you have doubts, if you think you might change your mind, we should stop now before anyone gets hurt more." Fiona sat up, taking both his hands in hers. Her eyes were serious, intent. "I have never been more certain of anything. Nathan, I love you. I am in love with you. I did not plan for this, did not expect it, but it happened anyway. You and Tommy, you have become my family. I do not want to lose that. You love me." Nathan's voice was rough with emotion, so much it scares me. "I love you too. God, Fiona, I love you so much." He pulled her close and kissed her, pouring months of restrained emotion into it. She responded with equal fervor, her arms wrapping around his neck, and for several long minutes they were lost in each other. When they finally broke apart, both breathing heavily, Fiona laughed slightly. "So we are doing this, really doing this." "Yeah, we really are." They told Tommy the next morning over breakfast. He looked between them with wide eyes as they explained that they were together, that Fiona would be around even more now if that was okay with him. Tommy was quiet for a moment, processing. Then he said, "Does this mean Fiona might become my mom?" Nathan and Fiona exchanged glances. "Would you want that?" Fiona asked gently. "Someday, I mean, if things keep going well." "Yes," Tommy said decisively. "I really would. I never had a mom before, not really, but I think you would be a good one." Fiona's eyes filled with tears. "I think I would try very hard to be." Tommy got up from his chair and hugged her tight. "I love you, Fiona. I love you too, sweetheart." Nathan watched them, his two favorite people in the world, and felt a happiness so complete it was almost painful. The next several months were a period of adjustment and growth. Fiona began spending most of her weekends in Missoula, gradually moving some of her things into Nathan's apartment. They navigated the challenges of blending their lives, learning each other's rhythms and quirks, occasionally arguing but always talking through it. The work situation was handled with careful professionalism. Fiona promoted Nathan to Regional Operations Director, overseeing not just the Missoula facility but 3 others in Montana and Idaho, and moved his direct reporting to Marcus to avoid any conflicts of interest. Nathan proved himself in the role, his natural leadership abilities and work ethic making him a valuable asset to the company regardless of his relationship with the CEO. In December, nearly a year after the storm that had brought them together, Nathan planned an elaborate surprise. He coordinated with Fiona's assistant to clear her schedule for a weekend, told Tommy the plan, and prepared everything meticulously. On a Friday evening, as snow began to fall outside in an echo of that fateful blizzard, Nathan made Fiona's favorite dinner. Tommy helped set the table, unusually solemn and excited. Fiona arrived from Billings, tired from a long week but smiling as she always did when she came home to them. "Something smells amazing," she said, hanging up her coat. "Dad made your favorite," Tommy announced, "and we have a surprise." "A surprise? Should I be worried?" "Definitely not worried," Nathan said, pulling her into a kiss. "Go change into something comfortable. Dinner will be ready in 10 minutes. They ate by candlelight, the 3 of them talking and laughing. Tommy told stories from school, making them both smile with his animated descriptions. Fiona shared news from work, carefully avoiding the confidential details, but giving them a sense of her week. Nathan mostly listened, content to watch the 2 people he loved most interact. After dinner, as they cleared the dishes, Nathan caught Tommy's eye and nodded. Tommy grinned and ran to his room, returning with a small wrapped box. "Fiona, we have something for you," Nathan said, suddenly nervous despite having rehearsed this moment in his head 100 times. Fiona looked between them, curious. "What is this?" "Open it," Tommy urged. Fiona unwrapped the box carefully. Inside was a delicate silver bracelet with 3 charms, a small mountain to represent Montana and where they met, a soccer ball for Tommy, and a blank circle ready to be engraved. "It is beautiful," Fiona breathed. "But what is the blank charm for?" "That is the surprise," Tommy said, practically vibrating with excitement. Nathan took the bracelet from the box and knelt down on one knee. Fiona's hand flew to her mouth, tears already forming in her eyes. "Fiona Zimmerman, you walked into my life during a blizzard and changed everything. You saw something in me I did not see in myself. You loved my son like he was your own. You made me believe in second chances and happy endings." Nathan's voice was thick with emotion. "I love you more than I knew it was possible to love someone. Will you marry me? The blank charm is for our wedding date," Tommy added helpfully. "So you can remember it forever." Fiona was crying openly now, nodding before she could even speak. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." Nathan slipped the bracelet onto her wrist and stood, pulling her into his arms and kissing her deeply. Tommy crashed into them both, hugging their legs, and they stumbled slightly, laughing through tears. "I cannot believe this is real," Fiona said, looking at the ring Nathan had placed on her finger during the kiss. It was modest by her standards, probably, but he had saved for months to buy it. "I cannot believe I get to have this. Have you?" "You are stuck with us now," Tommy said seriously. "You know that, right? That is all I want, to be stuck with you two forever." They married in the spring at a small ceremony in the mountains. Fiona's parents came stiff and formal, but clearly making an effort to accept their daughter's choices. Nathan's mother cried through the entire ceremony. Tommy served as ring bearer, beaming with pride in his little suit. As Nathan and Fiona exchanged vows, standing in a meadow full of wildflowers with the peaks of the Rockies behind them, Nathan thought back to that night in the storm. He had been just a struggling dad doing what anyone would do, helping someone in need. He could never have imagined it would lead to this, to love, to family, to a future brighter than he had dared to dream. "I love you," he whispered as they were pronounced husband and wife. "I love you too," Fiona whispered back, "my hero from the snowstorm." "I was not a hero, I was just trying to help. You saved me in more ways than you know." They moved into a house together in the summer, a beautiful craftsman with a big yard for Tommy and a home office where Fiona could work remotely. She began spending more time in Missoula, delegating responsibilities and restructuring her work to allow for better balance. For the first time in her adult life, she had priorities beyond the company. Tommy flourished with two parents who adored him. His confidence grew, his grades improved, and he started talking about wanting a sibling. Fiona and Nathan discussed it seriously, both wanting it but agreeing to wait a year to let everyone adjust to their new family dynamic. Nathan continued to excel in his role at Zimmerman Enterprises. He traveled occasionally to the other facilities, but Fiona made sure his schedule accommodated family time. She had learned from her own childhood, was determined not to repeat her parents' mistakes. On their first anniversary, they returned to the truck stop where they had met. Pete still worked there, and he laughed with delight when they walked in, Tommy between them holding both their hands. "Well, look at you three," he said, grinning. "I had a feeling something was going to come of that storm. You could see the sparks flying between you two." "Really?" Nathan asked, surprised. "We thought we were being subtle." "Subtle as a freight train," Pete confirmed. "But it is good, real good. You deserve happiness, Nathan. You worked hard enough for it." They took a photo in front of the truck stop, the three of them bundled against a chilly spring wind, all smiling broadly. Tommy held a sign that read, "Where our family began," his idea entirely. That night, back in their home, after Tommy had gone to bed, Nathan and Fiona sat on their back porch watching the stars. Fiona was curled into Nathan's side, his arm around her, a blanket draped over them both. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if I had not walked into that truck stop?" Fiona asked. "Sometimes. I probably would have kept struggling along, making it work somehow. Eventually, Tommy would have grown up, and I would have been proud of what we had managed. But I would not have been happy, not like this. I would have kept working myself to death, achieving success after success but never feeling fulfilled. I did not even realize how empty my life was until I met you and Tommy." She turned to look up at him. "I am so grateful for that storm." "Me too, though maybe we could have met somewhere warmer." Fiona laughed. "Where is the romance in that? Besides, you said yourself that crisis shows people's true character. The storm showed me yours, and I liked what I saw. It worked both ways. You could have stayed huddled in those blankets, but you helped everyone. You were kind to Tommy. You did not look down on anyone despite clearly being successful. We were good together from the start. Yeah, we really were. A year later, Fiona gave birth to their daughter Emma. Tommy was 8 by then, old enough to be genuinely excited about a sibling rather than jealous. He helped pick her name, insisted on holding her constantly, appointed himself her protector. Nathan watched Fiona with their daughter and felt his heart expand impossibly further. She was a natural mother despite her fears, attentive and loving, finding a balance between work and family that she had never thought possible. 2 years after that, they had another child, a son they named Daniel. Their house was full of noise and chaos and love. Tommy was 10, helpful with his younger siblings, a responsible and kind child who made Nathan proud every day. Fiona had restructured her company again, bringing on a COO to handle day-to-day operations while she focused on strategic planning, allowing her to work from home most days. Nathan had been promoted to vice president of operations, overseeing the entire Western region. He had also started taking online classes, working toward the engineering degree he had once thought impossible. It was slow going with 3 kids and a demanding job, but Fiona supported him completely, often studying alongside him after the kids were in bed, working on her own MBA to spite her father who had always said she did not need formal education. They fought sometimes, usually about balancing work and family, occasionally about parenting decisions or money or the thousands of little things couples argue about. But they always talked through it, always came back to their foundation of love and respect. One evening, when Emma was 3 and Daniel was 1, Nathan came home from a difficult day at work to find the house in chaos. Emma had dumped an entire container of flour on the kitchen floor and was making snow angels in it. Daniel was crying in his high chair, face covered in what looked like spaghetti sauce. Tommy was on the couch with headphones on, studiously ignoring the disaster. And Fiona was standing in the middle of it all, looking exhausted and frazzled. For a moment, Nathan just stood in the doorway, taking in the scene. Then he started laughing. Fiona looked at him like he was insane, but after a moment, she started laughing too. Emma, seeing her parents laughing, started giggling. Daniel stopped crying and clapped his sauce-covered hands. Even Tommy pulled off his headphones, grinning at the absurdity. "Welcome home," Fiona said, wiping tears from her eyes. "As you can see, I have everything under control." "I can see that." Nathan waded through the flour to kiss her. "How about I clean up Emma and the kitchen, you handle Daniel, and we order pizza for dinner?" "That sounds perfect." Later, after the kids were all bathed and in bed, after the flour was cleaned up and the kitchen restored to order, Nathan and Fiona collapsed on the couch together. "Sorry about the chaos," Fiona said. "I had a conference call run late and everything just spiraled. You do not need to apologize. This is life. It is messy and chaotic and perfect." "Is it perfect? Really?" Nathan pulled her close. "Fiona, 5 years ago I was pumping gas and wondering how I would make rent. I was lonely and stressed and just trying to survive. Now I have you and 3 amazing kids and a career I love and a future full of possibilities. Yes, it is messy. Yes, it is hard sometimes. But it is absolutely perfect." Fiona smiled and kissed him softly. "I love you, Nathan Zeller." "I love you too, Fiona Zeller." They sat there in the quiet house, holding each other, and Nathan reflected on the strange path his life had taken. A blizzard, a stranded woman, a moment of simple human kindness that had changed everything. He had not been looking for love or for rescue. He had just been trying to do the right thing, to help someone in need. But sometimes the universe rewarded those small acts of kindness in unexpected ways. Sometimes the person you saved ended up saving you right back. Sometimes a struggling dad helping a lost woman through a snowstorm ended up with everything he had never known he wanted. Tommy eventually went to college on a full scholarship, studying environmental science with the goal of making the world better. Emma showed signs of inheriting her mother's business acumen, running lemonade stands and organizing neighborhood events by the time she was 7. Daniel was still young, but showed his father's practical nature and kind heart. Nathan finished his degree when he was 38, walking across the stage with his whole family cheering in the audience. Fiona cried, remembering the man who had thought education was an impossible dream. Proud of how far he had come, on their 10th anniversary, they went back to the truck stop again. It had been renovated, modernized, but it was still there. Pete had retired, but they had stayed in touch, and he drove out to meet them. 10 years, Pete said, shaking his head in wonder. Hard to believe. I still remember you two dancing around each other, clearly smitten but too stubborn to admit it. We admitted it eventually, Fiona said, smiling at Nathan. That you did. And look at you now. Successful, happy, surrounded by family, it is a beautiful thing. They took another photo, this one with all 5 of them. The kids complained about the cold, fidgeted during the photo, typical children. But in the picture, they were all smiling, all together, a family unit forged from the most unlikely of circumstances. As they drove away, Emma asked from the back seat, "Why do we come here every year?" "It is just a truck stop." "Because this is where your mother and I met," Nathan explained. "It is where our family really began. During a blizzard, right?" Tommy added. He had heard the story many times but never tired of it. "During a blizzard," Fiona confirmed. "I was lost and scared, and your father helped me. He saved my life." "That is so romantic," Emma sighed, already a hopeless romantic at 7. "It was not romantic at the time," Nathan said, laughing. "I thought your mother was just another stranded traveler." "I had no idea she was a CEO or that she would change my life." "I did not know he would change mine either," Fiona added. "But he did. Your father showed me what really matters in life. Family, love, kindness. All the things I had been missing while I chased success." "So the storm was a good thing?" Daniel asked, his 3-year-old logic simplifying the complex story. "Yes, sweetheart," Fiona said, meeting Nathan's eyes in the rearview mirror. "The storm was a very good thing." They drove home through the Montana landscape, the mountains rising in the distance, the sky clear and blue. In the back, the kids bickered and laughed, a soundtrack of family life. In the front, Nathan reached over and took Fiona's hand, lacing their fingers together as he had that first time in the truck stop. He thought about the man he had been 10 years ago. Struggling, stressed, doing his best but never quite feeling like it was enough. He thought about the woman who had stumbled through the door, looking so out of place but fitting perfectly into his life nonetheless. People talked about fate and destiny, about meant to be and happy accidents. Nathan did not know if he believed in all that. What he believed in was kindness, in showing up, in doing the right thing even when it was hard. He believed in second chances and unexpected gifts and the power of love to transform lives. He had been a struggling dad guiding a lost woman through a snowstorm, not knowing she was a CEO who would want him. But more than that, she was a woman looking for something real, something meaningful, and he was a man with love to give. They had found each other in the chaos of a blizzard, and they had built something beautiful together. As they pulled into their driveway, their house warm and welcoming in the evening light, Nathan felt a profound sense of gratitude. For the storm that had brought them together, for the life they had built, for the family surrounding him with noise and love and endless possibilities. "We are home," he announced, and the kids tumbled out of the car, racing toward the house. Fiona lingered, looking at Nathan over the roof of the car. "Happy anniversary, my love. Happy anniversary. Here is to many more." "Many more," she agreed. They walked into the house hand in hand together, and the door closed behind them on another chapter of their unexpected, perfect love story.